Good morning. Continuing the review of the conclusion of Hemshech Ayin Beis. Reviewing the essay that I wrote on this topic. We're close to the end of the essay. We have some few more key pages to go through. We are on page, I believe, 44. Let me see. The pages, regardless, are posted. The essay is posted on our WhatsApp Ayin Beis group. Yeah. We're actually on page 45. And let's review what we're in the middle of. So, this last chapter in my essay goes back to the whole global Ayin Beis picture that began literally from page 1. The Hemshech began b'shah sheikdim Yisrael na'asa l'nishma, Yordam Malachi Asharis, when the Jews before Matan Torah prefaced by saying Nasa we will do and then we will hear, we'll understand, we'll learn. The Malachim descended and wove for them 2 crowns, one connected Nasa, one connected Nishma. That's the opening of the Hemshech. Keser would become the operative theme of all of Hemshech Ayin Beis. So the Rebbe Rashab asks a bunch of questions on that, Ma'amer Chazal and Shabbos, Masechta Shabbos, and then goes on to explain what is Keser, 3 meanings in Keser, 3 levels in Keser. Keser, of course, is a makif and a transcendent energy. To understand that, he goes into Pnimi, the Esesphiris, the Eres Pnimium, the internal energy of the divine, compares the two. It's a big part of the first half of Volume 1 in Hemshech Ayin Beis. Then goes back to explaining the 3 levels in Keser, which we've discussed now that we know what the whole Hemshech talks about, that they correspond to the 3 levels of Yichud Tata, Yichud Elah, and the Yichud of both Yichudim, as we discussed at length. But then there's a 4th track, because like he said in the Mishnah, Gimel Ksarim Hem, Shlosh Ksarim Hem, there are 3 crowns, Keser Teda, Keser Kuna, Keser Malchus. And then there's the Keser Shem Tov Ha'ela Al Gabeim, the Keser of the good name that rises above them. So the question that he asked was 2 questions. One is, why is that not counted in the 3 crowns? That's a 4th crown. Should have said 4 crowns and then spell them out. And what does Eila Al Gabeim mean? What does that mean? So these questions were also not answered in Ayin Beis. The other questions we already addressed, the first 4 questions. These questions are not answered. So to answer them, instead of just speculating, we actually found on page 1301 in Ayin Beis, the Rebbe Rashab briefly describes what the Keser Shem Tov is. That is the bitter of Shem Ban, not just Havayahu Elikim, but how Elikim itself reveals its source in the Helam Ha'atzmi. And that's a different track. He said it clearly, like we learned. It's an inyan b'finei atzmei. The Rebbe Rashab uses those words. It's not the regular process going from step mamata l'mayla. This is a particular leap. This is like a Baal Tshuva, like we learned earlier. Hitting rock bottom from deep distress, you reveal the root of the Gvuras, like you said, the 3rd level of the sweetening of the Gvura from the Gvura itself. The very bitterness, the very severity reveals its source in godliness. So it's a whole different track. Like he calls it, it's not even included in the 7 levels of the Aliyah of Malchus, because it's a complete Chiddush that will be only lost at Love. With the Helam of the Tzimtzum itself, or it says earlier, the Isis of the Rishimah themselves will reveal this power of the divine to conceal. Helam Ha'atzmi. In addition, obviously, to Havayahu Elikim. And this is the level of Ein Oid. At the end of the Pasuk, Yadaita Yem Vashavesa Levavecha Ki Havayahu Elikim B'Shamayim Emal V'Oretz Mitachas Ein Oid. What does Ein Oid come to add? This 4th point. So what I was suggesting is that that's the Kesher Shem Tov, based on what the Rebbe Rashab writes on page 1301, that is the level of Kesher Shem Tov, which is, as we'll soon see more details about it, is not. That's why it's not counted with the three ksarim, because the three ksarim, even as they're encompassed in the two crowns, are still in Seder Shtalshlus, and they are still about making the hell that Tzimtzum is revealing. Elikim is revealing Havaya, Havaya hu Elikim, but that Elikim itself has its own root all the way in the Etzem, or like we said, like the Guf itself is rooted in Atzmus, and it will actually sustain and nourish the Neshama. That's a whole other track, and that's why it's not counted in the three. Okay, so we're literally in the middle of that, the middle of page 45. I do want to say I did a little more research, and I'm going to add it to the essay. I need to do a little more writing. I actually found more material on this three ksarim and Kesher Shem Tov in Samach Vav, in another section in Samach Vav, which I now am also looking into. That the source of that is a Mittler Rebbe's Maimer called B'Shar Sheikdimu, Yisrael Nasel L'Nishma. There's a Maimer from the Mittler Rebbe like that in Maimori Ad Muram Tzoi. I'm still in the middle of doing my research, but I have found that, and it's very, very aligned with what we're discussing here. He actually says those words. I'm looking now on the Maimer Samach Vav, which I said I'm going to include in the essay. I have to still write it up, but this is what I just want to share with you. Hemshech Samach Vav, in the Maimer called Kodesh Ata, V'neda Shmecha, Ve'en Elikim B'Ledecha, it's a Maimer of Rosh Hashanah, interestingly. The second day of Rosh Hashanah, Tofrei Samach Zayin, which would be the equivalent of 1906. So in Samach Vav, in the earlier edition, it's the bottom of page 356. So I'm reading there, he says like this, that the Gimel Ksarim, Hem Chsin Ksarim de Seder Shtalshlus. The three crowns are the Ksarim of Seder Shtalshlus. So even though the third crown is the highest one, we said was completely beyond existence, but still, relatively speaking, he made it clear that it's not the Etzem Mamish. It's still Keser. It's still a Rotzen. However, it's the Rotzen Atzmi, the Etzem HaRotzen. He says, but Keser Shem Tov, he says, is the bitter of Malchus down below in Biyah, the bitter of Ban, same language used in Samach Ayin Beis, and when that elevates, that is called Shem Tov. He actually explains why it's called Keser Shem Tov, because it's about the Tov, Atzmi, that comes dafka from transforming the material world into a Diri B'Tachtenim. So that's Eila L'Gabeim, he explains, is L'mayla M'Bchinas Gimel Ksarim Anal. It elevates higher than the three Ksarim, because they're all in Seder Shtalshlus, and they reach Eir Ein Sof. Whereas this reaches the Helam Ha'atzmi of Ein Sof, and he goes on to explain even the words Eila, She'ela Alein. It's like meaning, what means Eila Alein? It's a Kesed to those three Ksarim. That's how high it is. It's Eila Al Gabeim, as he explains. I'm reading straight from Samach Vav here. He goes on to explain it more in detail. Again, I'm still in the middle of researching it. I'm going to look into the Mittler Rebbe's Maimer. I want to see what he says there. But I'm definitely going to add it because it helps understand what it says here as well. But it's very aligned that this is reaching the Helam Ha'atzmi Ein Eid. So it's a different level, a different track. And let's continue now reading, since we're still in the middle of this, another few paragraphs. And that will conclude this, really conclude the end of Hemshech Ayin Beis and answering the final questions about Kesher Shem Tov Eila Al Gabeim.
Could I ask a question, Rabbi?
Yes.
Is that why where a Baal Tshuva stands, is the highest level? I mean, because...
Is that why, what? I'm sorry?
Is that why you're talking about the fourth level and reaching the Helam Ha'atzmi, the transformation of the darkness? That is why where a Baal Tshuva stand, it's higher than a tzaddik, or not higher, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
yes, a Baal Tshuva is higher than a tzaddik.
But is that relating to what you're talking about here with the Kesser?
I just mentioned that about Shuvah coming from distress.
Okay.
Yeah, from the darkness itself, the transformation of darkness, that is the track of Tshuva, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So that's why we have to bless Hashem for everything, right?
Well, that's what he says in Tanya chapter 26. He talks about that the Gemara that says you bless Hashem for the negative as well as for the positive. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're middle of page 45. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth paragraph. That's where we stopped. V'yesh la'ayin. So I'm just here remarking, because we also spoke about the 3 levels of sweetening gvura, if you remember. One, using an example. You have bitter water, let's say. There's 3 ways it can be sweetened. One way is you pour in sweet water. You pour enough sweet, it overshadows and neutralizes the bitter. So when you're drinking it, you don't feel the bitterness. You haven't transformed anything. You've just simply overridden the bitter with more sweet than bitter, more chesed than gvur. A second way is that the sweetness actually affects the bitter, meaning it turns the bitter into sweet as well. And he explained how that was, for example, when Moshe Rabbeinu threw that stick into the bitter water, it turned it into sweet. So it's still coming from the sweet water, but this time it's actually affecting the bitterness. It's not just overriding it. And the third way is that the bitterness itself is transformed. And we learned this at length in Ayin Beis in volume 3. So I'm not going to go into the details. So what I'm wondering here in the next paragraph of this essay is, since there are 3 levels, and we just spoke about a 4th level, where is the 4th level? Is the 4th level a part of the 3rd level of the bitter itself becoming transformed, which it sounds like? So why is it a 4th level? There it's about 3 levels. So that's what I discussed here in this paragraph. Yesh la'ayin, we have to look into. This means it requires more in-depth analysis. Be'inin gimel darges b'amtokas hagvuras, by the 3 levels of the sweetening of the severities of the bitter. On page 1355 and on, Amar Aleph Shin Taz Vav Elech, in volume 3 of Ayin Beis. Be'im Beis darges hadashenis, do we say that the first 2 levels of sweetening, hamtokas hagvuras hayedei chesed, both are the sweetening of gvura through chesed, through the sweet water is sweetening the gvura. The difference is, does it override it or does it transform it? But it's still coming from chesed. Heim keneged habeis b'chinas yichud havayu elikim v'habeis ksarim. Is that correspond to the 2 levels of yichud of havayu elikim and the 2 crowns? Ubezeh atzmei yesh eid madrege gimel. And in these 2 levels itself, there's a 3rd level. Which is why 3 times it says 3 dargis in Yichud Havaya Lekim, but it's all encompassed in those first 2 levels of sweetening. The ilu hamtoka gimel, whereas the 3rd level of sweetening, hagvuras nimtokim b'shasham, that the gvuras themselves are sweetened in their root. Hu al derech hafichas hakeli atzmei le'er. So then you would say that the 2 crowns encompass like 3, and that's the 2 levels of sweetening. And then there's the 4th that we're calling the 4th level, is actually a 3rd level, the 3rd level of the sweetening of the gvura, that the gvura itself gets transformed. Like the keli becomes the oir. Al derech keser shem tev ha'ela al gabeim. So that would be like keser shem tev ha'ela gabeim. Or you could say otherwise, that the 3, that the ulai b'amtoka gimel atzma yesh beis dargas. Maybe the 3rd level of sweetening of gvura, of transformation itself, has 2 levels. One that's still encompassed in the 3 crowns, and the 2nd level is the 4th, the Keser Shem Tov. So it's just 2 different ways to explain it. It's not clear from I could not, maybe both are possible. That's why I write yesh la'ayin, just to understand the three levels of the sweetening in contrast to what we just discussed about the three crowns and the fourth crown. So nothing conclusive, just as part of the essay, just wrote that as like a type of note that could be looked into and discussed. Okay. But now let's get back to the conclusion of the whole piece. V'zeu keser shem tov el al gabein, and this is what it means, keser shem tov el al gabein, shaloi nimna b'teich al gimel ksarim. It's not counted and included in the three crowns. Aval hi nimsheches la'achris sheyesh gimel b'chinas yichud v'gimel ksarim anal. But after you have the three levels of unification, of Havaya Lekim, and you have, in turn, the three crowns, then what emerges is the fourth one, the birur of the keli itself, the eil al gabein b'chinas ein oid, shegam alikim helam atzme yoir, that alikim itself, the helam, the darkness itself radiates and expresses and reveals the divine core of the helam atzmi. Okay. Now, as I said, with the mimer from Samach Vav, and hopefully also the mimer of the Mittler Rebbe, which I still need to write that down, this just becomes more amplified and even clearer, crystallized, because that's what he says there essentially. However, I want to see if he answers the reason of Shleish Ksarim. I don't know if he asked that question there. That's what I want to see. But regardless, it's definitely consistent with what we're learning here. Okay. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have a question, Rabbi. Spent a lot of time thinking about this last part about the fourth Kesher Shem Tov and the Bira of Kalim Ba'atzma by themselves without the infusion of or. And we spent a whole time about how we do the Yuchud and how we elevate Ban and do a Bira Ban through the Psila of the Nefesh Elokis and bringing down light into the Nefesh Bahamas and purifying that and elevating that. And then at the end, we're saying that the Kalim are able to do this on their own.
No,
the fourth
it's
level,
the exact opposite.
Level?
You can't do it unless you first do the first three levels.
So
it'd be like saying, let's just be not mathematical here. If you want to refine the body, a physical body that is driven by self-interest and ego and its own type, just think about your own physical. You have a Yetzer Hara, right? Eliezer, I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we all have a Nefesh Habamis. Imagine, can you just sit down one day and say, hey, the Nefesh Habamis is going to discover God, and that's it. No Nefesh Elokis, no Neshama. Absolutely not. Even the Neshama can't do it on its own. It needs siyua, support, because we live in a dark world, and the Neshama Shcheirani gets darkened. So Nefesh Elokis needs mitzvahs, and it needs Torah, and it needs leaders, teachers, rebbes. No child is going to figure out everything. You have to learn Torah, do mitzvahs. So the neshama elevates in the process. There are three general steps that elevation. Then, once the neshama has been working basically a lifetime and generations in refining the physical world, in refining the animal soul, refining the body, it starts revealing in the body something the body always had but was completely locked. It would no way it could be revealed without the giluyim of the neshama, of Torah mitzvahs, of the milchama that the Alter Rebbe talks about in Tanya between Nefesh Elokis and Nefesh Habamis. The end of the war is not just you subdue the animal soul, you transform the animal soul to the point you even reveal in the body its ultimate root in etzem. But that's only la'aseh laveh and only gemar habirurim. It's only at the end of the process. And at that point, yes, you're revealing the atzmi, but you still have the neshama. It's all going to be working together, like we spoke at length. They all complement each other. Even after Mashiach comes, then it's not going to be only bodies on earth. They're going to be neshamas, big gufim, but the guf will reveal the etzem. The neshama will be more of a revealing force. The Torah will be a revealing force, and they'll all work together. The whole Seder Shtalshlus will exist, but now will be permeated with the etzem being begoli, what's called dira b'tachtenim. Dira la'atzmusei in tachtenim, and the tachtenim too will be part of it by revealing. So each part will be expressing a different aspect of godliness, with all of them complementing each other. That's the general picture.
So, but that is that elevation and birur and revelation is accomplished by the Nefesh Elokis working together, b'yachad in Nefesh Bahamis, like a purification of that. I thought the whole point here with the last curveball, so to speak, of Kesher Shem Tov al Gabehem, of a fourth crown, that it's doing it from itself and by itself.
But it only comes. There's no by itself. There's no by itself. Everything comes prior to after the Aveda. Then you reveal in itself. It reveals. There's no separate track of completely on itself. It's El al Gabeim. It says you don't have it until you have the first three. That's
I thought it was a separate track. That was
it emerges only when you have the first three. Just be practical. Is it possible to reveal in the Yesh Elokus without working with it? I mean, you learn Tanya, right? There's a whole battle between Nefesh Elokus and Nefesh Habam. Nefesh Habam is not cooperating. Nefesh Habam said, "Oh, you know what? I'm rooted in Atzmus. Let me just." Nefesh Habam is a real formidable enemy. That's what it's called. But you work with it and you train it. Ultimately, you can transform it and reveal its deepest roots. Especially the guf is, I would say, even more than the Nefesh Habam, is the guf itself. But no, now a Baal Tshuva who through distress comes to do tshuva, meaning hitting rock bottom, that is a track, but it's not the track. That's not the complete picture. You want to have the tzaddik and the Baal Tshuva together. Nowhere does it say that everybody should become a Baal Tshuva. It says you want to have the avodah of a tzaddik. Even tzaddikim will get the mile of tshuva. We learned that length also in Ayin Beis. Mashiach will bring them the mile of tshuva. But about tshuva in Zman Hazeh, who did go through very dark place, does have an element of that. But after Baal Tshuva becomes a Baal Tshuva, he's expected to learn Torah and do mitzvahs and listen to his teachers and grow and work with his neshama. It's just that the darkest point was able to propel him to create a deep thirst, as he says in Tanya chapter 7. So there is that concept, but it's not a lechatchila. First of all, it's not lechatchila. It's not like initially, you know what, let's all hit rock bottom in order to get there. And number two, even when you do, then you start bringing the Giluyim. Like we spoke about the child, the farm boy who cried out kukuriku and was able to pierce the heavens on Rosh Hashanah. Next year, you didn't hear the whole shul yelling kukuriku. And the farm boy himself, they probably educated him and he started learning how to daven and he read Hebrew and daven in Hebrew. It was just saying there's a power there. But ultimately, you want to have it all, the etzem begili. There is a mile of etzem that's revealed in the darkest moments. But it's ultimately, its full expression is once you do all the Aveda, then you also have that combines it all. That's the key point here.
So I was thinking that once we've completed those three levels.
I know what you're thinking. It's incorrect.
Okay, but I just wanted to say what and then, okay, but I did want to voice that, it says in the times of the Gula, the wall will shout out, the stones will shout out, the godliness. Godliness will be revealed in
but will we learn Torah also? Will we learn Torah then?
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
I'm asking you a question. No, that's true. Will we also learn Torah while the walls are crying out?
Yes.
Why are we learning Torah? The walls are telling us everything, no?
I mean, for a complete shlemus of yichud with Hashem, you want everything. You want that, and I was thinking there was going to be a fourth level.
Precisely.
This fourth independent
and even the
level.
Walls crying out is also after all the thousands of years of birurim that we did with the oir that transformed the keli. It didn't just start yelling on its own.
Right.
It's because we refined the world through Torah mitzvahs, and the neshama and Torah mitzvahs refined the world, and now is able to reveal the godliness within all of existence. Correct.
So that's what I was thinking was this fourth independent
I don't know
revelation of
what you mean by
godliness.
independent. I'm not sure what you mean by
Well,
independent. It means
meaning
it's
that
another track, but
yes,
it's a result of thousands of years of hard work. Can you just recognize that?
sure, definitely, yeah.
So it's not independent. Independent. It didn't come from nowhere.
But so when we're going to look at trees and stones and everything in nature and everything, not just our own within our own
Yodikol Paul will say it Rosh Hashanah and
we'll
davening.
see godliness revealed in everything, in every
Okay,
nature, and
and
everything will be revealing godliness, which
and, and
regardless of our personal avoda with our nefesh Bahamas, there will be a
but that
new
first of all that came
revelation of
because of the
God in this
avodah.
world.
But firstly that came because of the avodah. It didn't come
Okay,
on its own. That's
got
number
it.
one.
Right.
Number two, even when that will be the case, there'll still be many levels of Ein Sof and Torah and mitzvahs that will keep elevating us. It's all going to be working together.
Right. I understand that, but I was relating it more like to Tchias HaMesim, that God is going to give us a gift with the dew, the tal. He's going to bring back all our answers. It's not going to be our avoda that's bringing back David and Melech.
So
It's going to come from
I
Hashem.
repeat again, that's incorrect. It's because my seinu vavid desenu, the Alter Rebbe says in the beginning of chapter 38, 37 in Tanya, because
Right.
of our Maisa Aveh that we refined the physical world. Therefore, that's why the body can rise again. Not because God is giving us a gift. The gift is a result of our Aveda. We refine the body so well that it's now a keli to the Oir HaNeshama, and there could be a resurrection. And just for the record, Tchias HaMesim is not bodies alone. It's a body that will be reunited with its neshama. It's not just bodies are going to walk around alive. It's because the neshama will be reconnected with the guf.
Yes, I got that. Okay. I understand it's a result of our avoda. I understand that. We have to do the first three birurim to have this last one achieve it. Okay.
Is there a concept of I mean, Lasad Lavi is universal, right? Is there a concept of a personal Lasad Lavi, or is that totally off base?
What do you mean? Like now a taste of it?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
you have expressions. Titimon me'ein elam haba. We have a taste of elam haba on Shabbos. We have a taste of elam haba when we learn Chassidus. We have a taste of elam haba when we do a mitzvah. You have the concept of a taste, meaning a microcosmic personal taste. It's not the geula. You have what's called geula pratis, a microcosmic geula when a person experiences, let's say, even Yitzias Mitzrayim is considered a taste of geula, or Purim for that matter. So you have the microcosmic concept, but it's not what we call Gula Amitis Vashlema, the full-blown transformation of the world into a divine home. It's not. A taste we have of it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So one final paragraph, not final, but in this section, a brackets that I just wrote as yet another something to consider. Al pi hanal ula yesh lahesiv. Based on the above, perhaps we can add Shagimul pirushim madreges besfiris pnimim, that the three interpretations and levels, if you remember, in what we call the internalized spheres, not the makiv, not the transcendent, but the immanent spheres, hem keneged hagimul ksarim bebchinas makifim. They correspond to the three crowns in the level of makifim that we discussed, the three levels of crowns and three meanings in Keser. Keser Malchus keneged sfira bebchinas misper. That Keser Malchus corresponds to the first meaning in sfira from the word number. which in Avodah is Tefillah, Avodah, Gvura, Mamata Lamaila, Aramim Chelikai HaMelech. Melech is Malchus. The second, Keser Kohuna, Keneged Sfira Bebchinas Sipur. Keser Kohuna is like Sfira from the word narrative, story. Mitzvahs, Gmach, Gemilas Chasadim, Chesed. And Keser Teira is Keneged Sfira Bebchinas Sapir Ubehiris. Corresponds to Sfira from the word sapphire, transparent and brilliant. Behiris, shining and brilliant shine. And that's Malmayla Lamato, Tiferes, Chibur de Malchus u Kohuna. That joins together Malchus and Kohuna. That's the level of Teira Eir, Lamayla min Ner Mitzvah, higher than Ner Mitzvah, Ki HaYichud de Teira Eir u B'chinas Eir, because the Yichud of Teira Eir is the level of Eir. Shalamayla ma Yichud de Kelim de Mitzvahs, that's higher than the Yichud of the containers of the Mitzvahs. Look at chapter 120 in Ayin Beis. And based on this, V'kesa Shem Tov Ha'ela Al Gabein, Keneged Sfira B'B'chinas Sefer. Because later he adds a fourth interpretation in Sfira from the word Sefer, like a book, in chapter 123. Hanimshech Ha'idei Ner Hashem Da Neshama Shebeshar Shelamayla Gam B'Teira Eir. That comes to the Ner Hashem of the Neshama, in its root, is higher even than Teira Eir. So that would be the corresponding meaning of the word Sfira.
Is that last level, that fourth one?
Avogili, one second. Avogili Sharshe, Wa'idei Keser Teira. But the revelation of the root of the soul, as we've learned, doesn't happen on its own. It's through the Teira. V'shnei haksarim achedim, Keser Malchus v'Keser Kohuna. And also through the two other crowns, Keser Malchus and Keser Kohuna. V'lechein eila al gabeim. And that's why it says eila al gabeim, it rises upon them, above them, because it comes through them. It's not counted as four, because first you need the three, and then once you have the three, this emerges the root of the neshama, the root of it all, the highest levels, which is the Keser Shem Tov. Let me just finish till the end, and then I'll stop for questions. And perhaps we can connect this Imam Mavur B'Perek Chav Gimel with what he explains in chapter 123 in Ayin Beis. Sham Sheba Yesh Dal Madreges. That the there are four levels. Madrege El Yena B'Teira Gufa. In Teira itself, he counts a higher level. Because you can learn Teira in general, and then this Teira Imnase, the Teira becomes your entire vocation, your entire work. Everything, you're completely consumed with Teira. And perhaps you reach that fourth level through the neshama, like we learned, the Kabbalah Seil, the neshama that reaches the etzem, and it's mamshech mechaber, and it draws down and connects elikus, higher levels of elikus, into Teira. The ilu b'kelim, however, when it comes to containers, there's only three levels. Rak gimel madregas. There are only three levels. Maybe that could also help understand the three and the four, meaning the three crowns, and the fourth that rises above, which is like a new level. V'adayin sarachinai, right? Which means it needs further research, further delving into, and evaluation. That's the end of the bracket, and with that ends this section, and really concludes Ayin Beis, that it would end with the answers to the earliest questions about the Ksarim. All 6 questions have been answered now. And as I said, in Samach Vav and Mitler Rebbe's Maimer, which I will add it to the essay, and then I'll share the essay with everyone once I complete it, adds more information, and I'll quote some of the text from there that could help understand these points about Keser Shem Tov, the 3 crowns, and Keser Shem Tov, and why it's called Shem Tov. So I think Yitzchok asked that question, and also why it's El Al Gabeim, a little more information on that as well. Okay, let me stop for any questions here.
so first of all, I apologize for interrupting you. Second, this isn't even the question I was going to ask. I thought that mitzvahs, which I guess would be Keser Kahuna, was the level that joined the other two, because mitzvahs partook of both Torah and neshama, above and below.
You asked me that question. I said, mitzvahs is not higher than Torah and neshama. Mitzvahs has both elements, but it's not that mitzvahs bind the other two. Atzmus binds the other two. So that's for the record. We spoke about this a few last week or something. You asked something similar.
Well, at least I'm consistent. But
Mitzvahs they all have both of mamat l'mayla, mamay l'mata. But it's not that mitzvahs join mamat l'mayla, lamata, but they have both elements.
And how is it the Torah joins them if it's lamayla lamata?
Because Tiferes to Tiferes, and Tiferes joins Ches and Gvura. Yeah.
Thank you.
But it's not really the joining, what we talk about, the joining of the two Yechudim. It depends what tracks you're talking. If you're talking about Mamat Lamayla, Mamay Lamata, we go like this: Yechud Tata, Yechud Elah, Mamala Kalaman, Sevav Kalaman. You could say Tefillah, Neshama Tefillah, Yechud Tata, Teira, Yechud Elah, Shacham Mamay Lamata, and then the Koyach HaAtzmos that joins them together. If you really speak in that term.
Yes, thank you.
You're speaking about the three tracks of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Teira, Kahuna, and Malchus. Then you speak that Torah combines Chesed and Gvura. It's not. I wouldn't. It's not all
mix them. Yeah, not aligned. Different concepts. Yeah, or different ways of approaching it.
There's something in common that there's being joined, but it's still in different levels.
I understand. Thank you very much.
This may be obvious, but so the Baal Shem Tov, when referring to Shem Tov, he was referring to the fourth the fourth. I mean, that's.
It's not referring. That's what he's called. His name is that.
No, but I mean, people generally say.
It?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been said by Fabrengens. I don't know if it says anywhere officially. It may. I have to look.
Again, the Keser Shem Tov is La'asi Lavo. Is that correct?
No, the Mishnah says it today too. That there are three crowns, and the crown of a good name rise above them all. In the Bir of Chassidus here, he's talking about the whole picture is when the Gemar HaBirurim will be revealed that highest level.
When it's apparent, when it's the Gilui.
Well, it's what he calls Einoid, the Gilui of the Bir of Ban, the Keli itself, Laila Atzma Yoyer, the darkness is Elokim itself will radiate. The shlemus of it will be lost of it. It doesn't mean you can't have a taste. Like I said, a Baal Tshuva is essentially a taste of that level.
I see.
Because the distress, the darkness itself, the led them to be transformed. But it's a taste. Now then we say, Mashiach osel asovet tzadikai b'tiyu. If the Mashiach comes, he will bring tshuva to the tzaddikim too. They should also have that quality.
I have a question.
Anyway,
I had a flash, a little chachma in what you were saying. The notion that the goof is going to be nourishing the neshama, like b'pashtus in practical terms, like for balabashtisha terms. Does that mean that let's say I'm trying to envision what it means to live in the Messianic era, and that means that Elokus and all these concepts that we're straining our brains to wrap our heads around and to really, in our neshamas and really working very hard to even begin to try to understand it, that la'asi lavo, it's all going to be obvious and natural. Like the body's just going to be all about ourselves as human beings, as we walk about the face of the earth. Elokus is going to be natural to us. Just like right now, our taivas are pulling at us and we have to work really hard to overcome them. Lahafech and la'asi lavo, it's going to be obvious that we're going to behave properly. We're going to be nice to each other. We're going to do mitzvahs and learn Torah. And that's going to be geschmack instead of like wanting to go eat a big steak. We're going to want to learn Torah.
That's a given. That's a given.
Okay.
That's the base. That's you just said is like the olive base of what Gula means.
Okay. I just it snapped in my brain that's like in practical
Yeah,
terms.
we spoke.
what it means.
I gave a few times. I quoted a whole sikha from the Rebbe about it. How just like no person would naturally put their hand in fire because
Yes, they know it's going to burn them.
yeah. So today, the fact that we can do a sin or not do a mitzvah is because either we don't know it's fire or we don't know that fire damages.
Mm-hmm.
Just like if you
Yes.
see someone putting their hand in fire, it means there's something wrong. So la'asadlave, that aberration will be eliminated. And just as our body feels hunger when we wake up in the morning, the neshama will naturally feel hunger for elikus and will not even need to be taught or told. They'll naturally gravitate, just like we gravitate to oxygen and food today, the neshama will gravitate to ruchnis and elikus. And learning Torah, la'asadlave, will be not to know what's right and wrong, would be to connect to deeper levels of unifications. This is a Geras HaKedesh Samach Vav. If you want this explained, he explains it. I quoted it probably quite a few times.
Yes, you have.
Through our learning Ayin Beis. But it's section 26 in the fourth section of Tanya.
Yeah. Thank you.
He talks about it, relatively at length, about that how we will not need Torah to know right from wrong or Issa from Heter, what's prohibited, what's right, because we naturally will know that. He doesn't say the words naturally will know it, but it's clear
It's
from
implied.
there.
Thank you very much.
And what I quoted now is the Sikha Vayigash Chelik Chav Hey, volume 25. Likutei Sichos. There's a Sikha Vayigash Ma'aser Gadol, Talmud Gadol. What's greater, action or study? Discusses this. There's a whole piece the Rebbe himself
Where did you
wrote.
cite that? Where did you write?
Likutei Sichos, volume 25.
But where is it? Is it cited here?
It's not cited anywhere. I just quoted it now.
Well, I have to write it down. Is it Likutei Sichos? Which one?
Volume 25. Vayigash. Okay.
Thank you.
Did you
So
learn
now,
page,
are there any
did you
other
learn-
questions?
Did you learn page 47, your last page?
No, we just finished page 45.
Okay. I was wondering, yeah. No, because I thought you said we finished with this, we finished Ayin Beis.
Yeah, but I have some more in the essay, some more points that I add. And now again, I want to add another section that I just discovered about Kesser Shem Tov. And you had asked me, Yitzchok, about what Shem Tov means. So it explains it in Ayin Beis, in Samach Vav. I said in the beginning of this class, the Maimer, it's a Rosh Hashanah Maimer, Kodesh Ata, B'nei Shmecha, B'nei Shimcha, Shmecha. In Samach Vav. In the earlier edition, it's page 357. I'm going to summarize it in the essay. I'm going to add it to the essay. Okay.
357.
Well, the Maimon is Kodesh Ata, depending what edition you have.
Yeah.
The newer editions, it's going to be a later page. In the edition, the earlier edition.
I have it right in front of me. Kodesh Ata B'nor Shimcha Ve'ein Elokim Miladecha Tzarich Lahavim Mipnei. That one.
Yeah, at the bottom of the page, you'll see the Gimel Ksarim, and the next page starts talking about Kesser Torah, Kesser Kohuna, Kesser Malchus, and Kesser Shem Tov. It's very consistent. I summed it up earlier in the class.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I've been listening. Thank you.
Okay, fine, good. Okay, so listen, we have more time here, so let's talk about the next section. Any other questions? Okay. So at the bottom of 45 we are. So this concludes what, at least the best of my ability, to try to surmise what the Rebbe Rashab would have written had he finished the Hemshech Ayin Beis. So first we answered the earlier questions about the effect on the animal soul of the Hisbonenus of Shema, Hashem Echad, what is Ner Mitzvah, what is Torah, what is Riyah. These are the earlier chapters of this essay. All the way to chapter 6, which we discussed was basically what Ayin Beis adds to the Maimer HaMagbiel L'Shavas. Chapter 7, which we're middle of here, was dedicated to going back to the beginning of Ayin Beis and covering the whole scope and answering the questions that the Rebbe Rashab asked all the way in the beginning. Okay. The only thing I did not do was the questions he asked in the Maim of Asisa Chag HaShavuos in Tofresh Ayin Gimel, which is in volume 1. He asked questions that he never answers either. But that I need more work to see if I could find other Maimorim that do answer and see if it fits with Ayin Beis. I did not do. That needs its own work. So we'll see if I ever get to that. But now, once we've finished here answering the questions on B'Shah Sheikdimu, and once you do that, that's it. That covers the beginning of the Hemshech. There's nothing more to add. However, in the process, it also became apparent to me that we can understand now the relationship between the two classic magnum opus of the Rebbe Rashab, namely Hemshech Samach Vav, which was delivered 6 years earlier to Ayin Beis. So Tafri Samach Vav, famous Hemshech Samach Vav, a Hemshech, and then 6 years later, Ayin Beis, that the Rebbe Rashab that we're covering here. So in the process, it made sense that after that Rebbe Rashab wrote a whole Hemshech Samach Vav, and then he wrote Hemshech Ayin Beis, it was logical to me that there must be some connection, some continuum. So that's what I now will focus on. What's the relationship of these two Hemshechim, and can you indeed say that one continues with the other one ended? Which is essentially what I'm going to present here. So we go now to page 46. Al Pia now, based on all the above, Yesh Levaya Gamken Hashayches, Bein Hemshech Tera ve Hemshech Tofrei Samach Vav. The connection, relationship between these two Hemshechim. Ki Mistaver Lemer, it makes sense to say, Shebeiz Hemshechim HaYesedim Elu, Yesh Lem Kesher, that these two fundamental series of discourses are connected. Ushehemshech Tera bo k'moy Hemshech lamavur behemshech Tofrei Samach Vav, and that Hemshech Ayin Beis comes like a continuation from Samach Vav. Shehemshech Tera maskil, that Ayin Beis begins heichon shehemshech Tofrei Vav mistayim. It begins where after Samach Vav concludes, because there's no way that Rebbe Rashab went ahead and just reiterated what it said in Samach Vav and Ayin Beis. There's no point in doing that. The fact that he wrote another major Hemshech after the first major Hemshech, Samach Vav, and remember when Samach Vav was said and written, everybody saw it as a revolutionary Hemshech. Then came Ayin Beis, so it makes sense. What I'm suggesting is that they flow one from the other. So here's the thought. Here's the thesis. When you compare Ayin Beis to Samach Vav, the general theme of Samach Vav is Aveda B'Keach Atzmei, self-generated effort, the work that we generate from within us. Ben Shanasa Eved. It's like the central theme, that a neshama is like a ben, a son. That's from the very DNA of the father of Hashem. Bonim atem Hashem elekechem. Ben. B'ni b'cheri Yisrael, like he says in chapter 2 in Tanya, he quotes those psukim. But it's not just a ben. The ben is serving like an eved. Because a ben has close access to his father. He can go into his palace, like he brings from the Zohar in the Chodesh and Samach Vav, that the ben can hang around in the most inner sanctum of the king. An eved doesn't just have access to everything. An eved is much more reverence. But a ben shenasa eved means that even though the neshama is so-called close to Hashem, but we serve Hashem with a Kabbalah soil. Remember the discussion, Nasa v'nishma, b'shah shekdimu, that's not the work of a ben. A ben is close to his father. An eved says, I'm completely committed to you. Whether I understand it, whether I love it, whether I connect with it, whether it resonates or not. So Samach Vav is very much built on that theme, that even the neshama serves Hashem like an eved. Complete dedication, complete commitment, complete subjugation. Like we're going to say in the Yom Narayim, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, Em Kibanim, Em Kavodim. That we're like Banim, but we're also like Avodim. Canal be'inya Nasa v'nishma, like we discussed earlier in the theme of Nasa v'nishma. So in comparison to what it says in Samach Vav, whose central theme is Aveda b'koyach atzmei, meaning the effort from below, the servant. Hamavur b'hemshech didan, when you compare it, what's explained in our Hemshech Ayin Beis, hu be'ikr be'inyan hamshacham amayl lamato. If you look at Ayin Beis well, even though, of course, there's that whole piece of mamata lamayla, which we'll discuss shortly, tefillah, neshama from the bottom up. But if you think of the ultimate punchline in Ayin Beis is mamayla lamata, is to bring it back down, not just to elevate existence, but to draw down from the highest levels of Giluyim into existence. Eved shenasa ben, that's my own expression. So if that's ben shenasa eved, then comes the work the other way around. That once you have that bitl and Kabbalah sale of and connected to the etzem, you want to bring the etzem back down to permeate and infuse our entire being, our keiches, gluyim, with godliness, not just connecting to the etzem. So bottom line is, Samach Vav is us going upward, divesting ourselves of our structure to connect to the etzem through Kabbalah sale, ben shenas evet. Aveda b'koyach atzmei, that reaches the highest levels. In Ayin Beis, continuing from there, he says, now, once you've done that, now we come back down. It's like Rotzei and Shuv. First we go all the way up, then we bring it back down into existence. So that very experience of Etzem, of Eved, Ben Shenas Eved, now comes back down into the Ben, that we get intimate and close to it. So it's not just the Eved, it's also bringing it down in a way that we also have a relationship like a Ben to Hashem. Lahamshich elikus b'slapshus b'teicha elemis. To manifest godliness in an internalized way, manifest within existence. And then really a beautiful joint effort here, two Hemshechim. One Hemshech that teaches us how, primarily, remember they overlap big time. In Samach Vav, there's plenty mamayla lamata too. And Ayin Beis, of course, there's plenty mamata lamayla, as we've learned at length. Tefillah, the whole Aramimcha L'Kaya Melech. So it's not exclusive. But overall, one is a general focus is on Ben Shenas Eved and one on Eved Shenas Ben. Now this obviously is based on studying both of them, I would say, pretty extensively and coming away with his points. I don't go into a long so-called proof and explanation, but if you learn some of Vav Ayin Beis, you can pretty much see that this is consistent. But it's, again, my opinion, my thoughts. Anyone can agree or disagree or have other ways of looking at it. I'm just suggesting a thesis here. Any questions before I continue?
Yeah, can you explain? I mean, I liked the way you kind of the catchphrase. I mean, I know you can't cover everything, every point, but Ben Shanasa Evan, Evan Shanasa Ben. Can you elaborate? You said Samach Vav is Ben Shanasa Evan and Ayin Beis is Evan Shanasa Ben. What?
I just explained that. You want me to repeat what I just said, or
I don't. The second part, I don't get the notion of Evet Shanasa Ben. How does that relate to bringing godliness down into existence?
That's exactly what a Ben is. It's in the structure that the Ben has an intimate connection with God. And okay. Evet is a person who's going out of himself to just be bottled to Hashem.
Okay, that's
basically
exactly
it's like bittul and yichud.
Thank you.
So bittul is the Eved, the total bittul, and then you want the bittul to come and become personal and internalized.
Thank you.
So like tefillah is matlamayla Torah internalizes it. Yeah.
Have you put this out for the general? I mean, I'm saying, is it published?
This essay was published, yeah.
Yeah. This last part is also, or are you going to add? Oh.
No. This whole essay has been published in a journal, in a local journal that Chabad scholars read.
Have you gotten what kind? I'm just curious. Do you get a lot of feedback on this from them?
Compliments primarily.
Yes, of course. Yeah, wonderful.
I didn't get anyone, no one had, I've asked in the essay itself, I write if anybody has any thoughts or critique or disagreements. I haven't yet received any, I guess, firstly, if anyone's going to want to challenge this, they have to really look into it deeply. It's not a quick essay, it's a 47-page essay. So I haven't heard from anyone any pushback, let me put it that way.
No, it's really fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, again, I don't know how many people read it, to be honest. I heard from people who, mashpiyim and teachers who learn Chassidus, they appreciate it. They asked, when I started publishing the first part, they were waiting for the next. I know people who really into it. I actually would like someone to challenge it, to be honest. It would be nice to see, because I'd be very open to that. I mean, challenge-wise, there's a lot of parts here, it's a lot of...
Well, like the true scholar you are.
No, well, it's, a lot of it is based on, I think, almost uncontestable evidence with the Maimar Magbil L'Shevis. No one's going to come and say that the Maimar Magbil L'Shevis is not connected to this, because the Rebbe Rashab himself says. So it's not like there's certain things that are pretty like a givens once you know it. But then there are I'm sure nuances and points that can be argued and discussed, which is great. I wish they would do that. That's my point in writing it, was to get people to be engaged with it. So the next section is an interesting one. I'm going to be quoting some of my mashpiyim that I had of my lifetime, that I heard certain things from that. I write like this, v'yumtak. And this is, yumtak literally means this is sweetened, but it means it's enhanced. What I just said about Samach Vav and Ayin Beis is yumtak, al pi ma sheshamaiti min mashpiyah dereinu, based on what I heard from mashpiyim of our generation. And I write the names, Rabbi Moshe Marozov, they're all passed on already. Rabbi Yael Khan, Rabbi Melech Sribel, Olav Shalom. They were all real scholars of Chassidus. So what I heard from them was, and they come from the previous generation, so it's the time of they heard from Chassidim of the Rebbe Rashab. They all, or not the time of the Rebbe Rashab, but their parents were. And their teachers were. Hemshech Tafrei Samach Vav Heilach Be'ika Lefi Hashita Shel Eres Pshutim. Let me first explain before I read. So we may recall, we've talked about it a number of times. In Kabbalah, there are two opinions, actually three opinions, but generally two opinions about the spheres. Whether the spheres, the Eiris of the spheres, meaning the Eir and Keli, so whether the Iker is the Eir or the Keli, or different ways to put it, the Eir of the spheres, do they have any particles? Do they have any shape and definition? Or does the shape and definition only come from the Kelim? So there's one opinion that the Eiris are pshutim. They're seamless and shapeless. An example, imagine putting colorless liquid in tinted test tubes. So if one tube is, let's say, blue, and one is red, and one is green, so the colorless liquid doesn't change color. But when you put it in the tube, it will change color to the observer. So that's an example given for the opinion that the Eir Liki is shapeless, remains shapeless. But once it gets into the Keli gives it a shape, just like it gives it a color. There's other opinion that no, the Eir itself, though it's not as shaped as the container is, but already has subtle form, subtle particles, if you wish. In some articles I've written, I've compared these two opinions to the two opinions in physics, quantum mechanics especially, whether light is a wave or a particle. And the fact is, in the quantum level, it could be either. Once you measure it, it could be one or the other. So a wave would be more shapeless, and a particle is more shape. But regardless, these two opinions exist. Chassidus brings both opinions. The Arizal and the Ramak actually reconcile in different ways. I don't want to go through all the details, a lot of details around this. But briefly, that the Ur on its own is more shapeless. With the Keli, the Ur assumes properties. Or does the Ur itself already have properties even before? Bottom line is, all opinions are correct. It all comes down to what is the focus. Is the focus on the pshittus of Elikus, the shapelessness of godliness, like the bligvul of Elikus? Or is the focus on its manifestation in tachtenim, in the gvul of existence? That's really the ultimate way Chassidus reconciles. So the different Kabbalists are not really disagreeing fundamentally, they're just disagreeing what is the main focus. Like, are you focusing on the Kavana Klolis Asher Kedeshanu B'Mitzvayse B'Tzivanu that equalizes all mitzvahs? Or are you focusing on Al Atifas Talis, Al Achilas Matzah, on the end of the blessing, which is the specific mitzvah? Is the focus on the Mishkan in general, that Hashem dwells in the Mishkan, or is it the specific Kalim, the Aron, the Menorah, the Mizbeach, the Shulchan? Both are correct, because you need both the details and you need the overall. So it's really what is primary. So what I heard from these mashpiyim is that Hemshech Samach Vav follows Be'ikr. I say Be'ikr because it's not exclusive. Lefi hashita shel eres pshutim. If you look at Ayin Samach Vav, and I'm going to quote the Maimer where it says it, you can see that is the main thing. V'atzilus hu b'chinas yesh ma'ayin. And based on that, then Atzilus is considered like a new creation. Because Atzilus is already a structure. That's Reiseb Dibra Masal HaChedesh, the Dibra Masal Adam Ki Yaakov Tafrei Samach Vav. Two Maimorim in Samach Vav that discuss this in more detail. The Hemshech Terav and Hemshech Ayin Beis, who be'ikar lefi hashita shel eres mitzuyarim. It follows primarily the shita of the shaped, defined energies that have particles, that have some definition. Atzilus ubchinas gilei helam. And then Atzilus is gilei helam, because Atzilus, which is a structure, is just revealing that siyur that's already there in the Ur before Atzilus. In Samach Vav, the structure of Atzilus is a new entity because the Ur doesn't have a shape and form. And Atzilus, it gains shape and form due to the Uris and Kalim. Kimudgish by Hemshech become Mekemis. And this actually is emphasized by the Rebbe Rashab himself in a number of places, and I give one example. L'dugma b'peida kuf chavtes. An example on chapter 129, he writes these words, L'fi hashita amavur b'drush zeh. That's the key. The Rebbe Rashab is saying, according to the opinion that's explained in this drush, and he says that several times, that tells us that firstly, this drush goes according to this opinion of that the Ur has some form and shape and definition, and it also suggests that another drush does not. He doesn't say Samach Vav does not, but when he says Lefia drush, Lefia Meshita Mavur b'drush zeh, suggests that there's a shita that's mavur in a different drush, and that's Samach Vav, the other shita that the Ur is seamless and shapeless. So this is how it's understood. Now, what's the yumtuk here? Because now you'll understand why. Because since Samach Vav, and I'm going to explain that in the next paragraph, but I'll just say it briefly. Since Samach Vav is about divesting ourselves from our structure and ben, to become an Evet Poshet, that's the word, a simple servant. Simplicity is shapeless. So it's about getting outside of our structures, divesting, stripping ourselves from the structure to connect to the Hashem Echad. So that's the shita of Eres Pshutim, Eres that are abstract, that are shapeless. In Ayin Beis is the Hamshach of Elikus into the structure. That's why the shita goes according to the shita that the Eres have shape and form, because the focus is on manifesting and permeating and infusing the shape and form with the bligvul of Elikus. It's always to bring the bligvul into the gvul, but are you focusing on reaching the bligvul that's shapeless, or are you bringing the shapelessness into shape and form, which is primarily the focus of Ayin Beis?
It's similar to physics, but with wave versus particles. The same. They can't demonstrate them both at the same time, and the Rebbeim were above that, so they were able to cop it.
Precisely. You got it. It's exactly right. That's why we say Chassidus goes a step beyond quantum, because quantum is still on a quantum state, a microscopic state. In a macroscopic state, everything is defined. In quantum, it's all probabilities and states of of indeterministic states. In the macroscopic world is deterministic. That's like the difference between pshutim and mitziyarim. And then when you reach the highest level, you join both. The indeterministic manifests within the deterministic. The beyond structure manifests within the structure. That's essentially the point, yes. And each hemshech, again, there's plenty of overlap, but general focus would be these two key points. So this is pretty fascinating material, as you see, but this all is drawn from after understanding the whole mamatla mata that we discussed at length in Ayin Beis itself. Remember the whole thing with spheres. The sphere misper is a number. That's a structure. Sipur is a story. You're starting to hear a story that's beyond structure. And sapir is the transparent level where it's losing structure altogether until finally sefer, and then the three levels in keser. So you're seeing here the movement from structure to beyond structure, but you want the beyond structure back in the structure. You want a dira b'tachtenim. You don't just want a likud. You want the shechanti b'seicham, b'seich kol echad ve'echad. That should be the shechina. It should be elikus in the highest levels of elikus, but it should dwell within us and among us and in every detail of our lives. That's the ultimate beautiful and eloquent joining of the two. Or the yichud of yichud tata, yichud elah, and the yichud of both of them. There you have it. Gvul, bligvul, and the joining of the two.
And Lashon HaKodesh is both numeric and also, I mean, and then it all goes into Torah, right? The three different levels you were talking about, the numeric and then the
Well, numeric is a misper, right? Number.
yeah.
And also when we say zeros and ones, like computer language, zero is a makif, it's a circle. Ones are a line, like a kav. So one is pnimi, one is makif, or yin and yang, or basically the difference between Western thought and Eastern thought. That you're dealing with structure, mathematical structures, and then you're dealing with that which is beyond structure, the abstract. But you want a joining of both. It's not either or. You need both together.
So incredible.
Yeah.
Getting back to Svi's comment,
I have quite a few questions, a few articles that I wrote on this circles and squares and how you join these two realities together. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
getting back to Svi's comment about the quantum, it's my understanding, maybe I misunderstand it, but that it's an indeterministic thing that could be a wave or a particle, but once you observe it, it's one or the other. Here, aren't we saying that the yichud of the two yichudim, that it's a wave and a particle at the same time? With Ben Shanase Eved and Eved Nase Ben, that they have both milas at the same time. It's both a wave and a particle at the same time.
That's what I added. In quantum mechanics, they don't talk about being a wave and particle at the same time, except in the indeterministic state. Then it could be either or both, because it's not defined yet. Yes. What I was adding was something that science has not gotten to yet, which is what they're looking for is, can the quantum rules apply to the deterministic, like Newtonian physics, where everything is determined. And yes, in Chassidus, that's what I think science has not reached that yet. This is a chiddush for sure, Chassidus, that science, I'm sure will get to it.
Wow.
But yeah, 100%. The idea that you ultimately, because they still think quantum is like the highest level. When you really go to it, there's something higher than quantum too, which is neither deterministic nor non-deterministic. Atzmus. So Atzmus is higher than Yechud Tata and Yechud Elah, higher than Ben and higher than Eved. and atzmus can join together determinism and indeterminism, therefore wave and particle. That's
Mhm,
what I
mhm.
was saying.
Because it's
Have you
beyond
ever
time.
written that up?
I may have, not completely, I don't know, I'm not sure. I definitely spoke about it. I have to see if I wrote it.
Yeah, because that's a it's very, very powerful. And now that
Very
you've done this
powerful.
essay, like it's not like you couldn't have articulated that notion. You said you've written about it before, but now that you've written this essay, you yourself have much more clarity on what you mean to say about that. I happen to think, I mean, that's mind blowing. I think it's extremely powerful.
I
And
agree.
I would like to
I
encourage
wasn't
you.
even planning to say it, but because I didn't really write it in the essay because it's not so relevant to the Ayin Beis Samach Vav. But at the end of the day, that's the story for sure. And yeah,
Mhm,
I agree. It's worth writing. I wish I could engage some real quantum scientists.
Well, I'm sure
mhm,
once you write it up, you'll get the, actually, it's interesting. I know someone who's writing a book with my rabbi, not about that Dafka, but he's a physicist, and they're trying to merge the two realms of, or two fields of thought. I wonder if I should. Uh, I'm going to ask this question I'll call my rabbi and see if he's given. I'm not sure he even understands quantum mechanics, but anyways, I thought that is brilliant. That is so overwhelmingly powerful. Um, I know everyone's always giving you homework and telling you you should do this and you should do
No,
that,
no,
but
this is worth doing. No,
yeah,
I
yeah,
understand the value of this because
mhm,
this could be put out there very quickly, and
yeah,
anyone who's anyone the physicists who think about these things will relate to it
mhm.
immediately.
yeah,
They
Yeah.
they may not be able to prove it scientifically because we're basing it really on almost
on
like
faith,
Kabbalah that we
yeah,
received it. Well, I don't know if the word faith is right exactly, but I don't see any reason why they couldn't experiment and come to it's obviously all theoretical physics starts with theory, and then you
Mhm.
try to prove it. So this theory is definitely a legitimate theory. There's nothing about it that is crazier than quantum mechanics itself. You know,
Is it because the observer effect is a time is bound by time, and we are talking about beyond time here? Is that?
I don't know if that's the reason. I think like anything, first you start with like Einstein started with theories that weren't proven till like the black hole was a theory that he himself retracted, and then it was proven later. So there are theories you come up, it's like thought experiments. Well, what is time? What is energy? What is light? You come up with a thought, then you start experimenting and say, you know what, this theory works or doesn't work. That's one thing. I have written about that another theory that I think is connected to this, that until observers, meaning us, won't have harmony within ourselves, we'll never be able to find true harmony in the subatomic particles around us because they're affected by us. That I have written. That's a little controversial because it means until you become an ethical person, you're never going to be able to find harmony in the universe around you. Which science, for scientific science, that's anathema. That their behavior affects their science, But it may be connected to this as well because reaching that third level means you have to be responsible to join the two worlds of determinism and indeterminism. That's like
Mhm,
through our behavior. So it's all connected.
mhm.
very
Yeah,
powerful.
yeah,
It also
yeah.
comes to explain how we can have free choice and also everything's hashgacha pratis. It actually answers that question.
Absolutely, because the indeterminism allows for the free choice. Exactly.
That's beautiful, so powerful. That's huge. Rabbi, I really have to encourage you to write this up because that's a chiddush that no one, and to my knowledge, in the Jewish world has ever revealed. Maybe they've thought about it, but it's so powerful because it's a perplexing question, and Chassidus actually comes to answer it.
Yeah. Should I trademark it and patent it?
I think you should copyright it. Absolutely. Well, it's science, but still, the way you put it together, you get cited everywhere.
Maybe it'll ultimately help fund all of the Chassidus projects in existence.
I don't know. I'm so entranced by that. Well, I'll take it offline, but maybe I can take a first stab at it. It'll be awful. It'll look like a hut, and then you can fix it up and make it look like a palace.
You know what you could do? You could do is ask ChatGPT to transcribe
Brilliant.
and edit
Yeah.
this piece of the video.
Good idea. Perfect. Yes, I will clean that
And
up.
then we could always refine it.
Yeah, Be'ezus Hashem, I think I'm going to do that. That's a fun project. Thank you.
No, because that will get it going. You know what? For me to sit down from scratch, I need a little more time.
Yeah.
But once we get it, because it'll do a good job, because it's not creating it yesh mayin. It's just taking
Right.
what I wrote.
It has knowledge. Yeah.
And it'll write it in it writes well. It'll write with all the right, even tell it to write it could write a scientific version and a layman version.
Indeed.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Blineder, I'm going to make an effort at that.
Okay, so maybe we have history in the making right here.
Yeah.
I think
You
so.
remember this day, the first
Very
day of
good.
Slichus before the year Tavshin Pei Vav.
All right. Well,
And I would suggest that once it's written up, it would be submitted to Professor Brian Greene and Michio Kiko. I don't
Yeah.
know what the two leading
Also,
physicists on string theory.
mhm.
Which, by the way, they
probably
What
show
about
it-
Rabbi Presby? Rabbi Presby is also
maybe we should
physicist.
show it. Maybe I would show it
Yeah.
first.
a world-class
I
physicist.
think that would be
No,
a
no,
good.
no. Let me, Eliezer, but let me say this. Maybe you should show it first to a more friendly
Yes,
person
I
to
agree.
make sure it has the right scientific language.
I have
can
someone
then-
I can show it to.
Yeah, then could be present, because if you send it right to them and it's somewhat
Uh-huh.
primitive, the theory
Right.
may be great, but if it can be, I'm just sort of
Elucidated.
thinking out loud.
Rabbi,
Right.
remember I sent you that book about that frum guy who wrote about the connection between quantum theory and Elikus. He's a professor at Stanford. I'm going to clean that
Yeah,
up.
and there's another guy. What's his name? He wrote a book called. I'm looking at my bookshelf right now. He's a known guy. Like he's I think he works for Esha Torah. Maybe I'm not sure.
Oh, Gerald Schroeder?
Yeah.
Yeah, who wrote Genesis and the Big Bang?
Yeah, and he wrote a few other such books about. Yeah. Is he around?
I'm not sure. Let's find out.
Okay, you know what? Let's get one step at a time. Let's get it down. Make sure we like it, then we move it along. Okay. Then our Ayin Beis could end up becoming a real revolution.
Because it could direct scientists that are working in this field, that they should be exploring the unification of these two in a deterministic manner.
I always felt that if there was a Nobel Prize given to someone in physics or anything that was based on idea Chassidus, that would literally put Chassidus become a household name.
Right.
That like the fastest way to get to the promised land, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
By the way,
this is very exciting.
in string theory, in M theory, there's 11 strings, which is very interesting. Concept of would be spheres plus Kesser.
Yeah. I just saw an article, I think in the Wall Street Journal, about people accusing modern physicists of creating their own mafia and not allowing new theories in because they just want to control the science. You see that article? It's an interesting article, like a whole conspiracy that on YouTube videos exposing, so to speak, the conspiracies of the physicists trying to control.
It's so political, Rabbi. You have no
not
idea.
only about physicists, it's everywhere. It's in medical field as well, if not more about that.
Okay,
Totally.
there we go.
All right.
You tell me there's no purity any longer on earth? Okay.
Only in Hasidus.
I heard that science collapsed and the death of science. And you and your theory and maybe President Javier will recover their efforts.
Okay. God, from your mouth to God's ears, yeah. Okay,
Gerald Schroeder is still alive, by the way. We should at least set the record straight there.
Okay, no, thank God. Should have many good, healthy years. So first of all, let me just stop the recording here. 1 second. So we're stopping right now. I'm going to stop here, middle of page 46. I'll do that in the next class.
What about Rabbi? What about Brandover? The guy, is he still alive?